Hello everyone, welcome to this Saturday educational presentation. Now today I'd like to talk to you about trading rules that can really help you become a consistent trader. In fact, these two rules that I'm going to share with you today, you can apply to any method, and we strongly feel that we will increase your odds for consistency simply by adding them to whatever method, whatever market, whatever time frame that you currently trade. For example, let's look at this chart here. Here's one in Varian. This is actually from just a week or so ago. But someone basically looking at this without any knowledge of these two rules would say, well, not really much happening. We're in a range market. So really no clear-cut idea as to which direction this market may be headed and as to what to do. So I think I'll just avoid this stock. Well, that's not true, because according to these two rules I'm going to share with you, you could have applied them and seen that they actually generated a buy signal with one of our strategies. And then later on, in fact, just 5 days later, the stock was up 40 points in 1 week. Now you see here at the very top, some news was actually generated at the end of that week, which caused the stock to go up 40 points. But the funny thing is, how did these two rules pinpoint to buy it a week in advance? It's because it goes with our philosophy that the market really tells you everything you need to know. And there's no reason, if you don't need to, if you don't really want to follow any fundamental news or wait for any announcements, because the market pretty much has it already pre-factored in. And if this is difficult for you to follow patterns or to follow some type of rules like this, well, don't worry. We've made it simple by applying everything that I've accumulated and learned in my 43 years of trading on our platform, the PTS Primo Charting Platform. It's the educational platform that actually teaches you how to trade. It does it through real simple processes. So welcome once again to our Saturday presentation. My name is Stephen Primo. I've been trading for 43 years now. I first started my career on the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange. I was on the floor for 43 years. I was a specialist for 9 of those years. I was on the floor for 16 years. And 9 of those years I was a specialist. A specialist is someone who simply made markets in about 50 or 60 stocks. So if you wanted to buy or sell a particular stock, a floor broker would walk up to the trader who made a market in that. So I made markets during the crash of '87 and the bull market after that. And so in my 43 years, trust me, I've traded just about every system or technique or method you can think of. It's probably been around before, just renamed. And so, think of it, how many times is this brand new technique, brand new indicator, brand new system supposed to change the world and turn trading upside down? And then maybe you spend the $10,000, $15,000 on the program and it works for a little bit and then it gives it all back, right? That's usually the way things work. What we're trying to do at Specialist Trading is teach you things that have stood the test over time, things that are very consistent. So that's our goal as an educational company, first and foremost. All we want to do is educate you so that ultimately we can put the power in your hands so that you can make your own trading decisions. That's our philosophy, and that's our one mission as educators, to educate you. Now, before we begin, as always, we are first required to share this with you, so please take a moment to view our disclaimer. I'm going to show you a lot of performance results that just happened roughly within the last week or so using these two rules, but please remember that we can in no way guarantee that any of the results I'm about to share with you will be repeated in the future. Also, please remember, since we are an educational company, that all examples are strictly for educational purposes only. Now, I see a lot of old faces today in the attendee list, but I also see a lot of new people attending. So for those of you who have not done so already, I would like to take this time to invite each and every one of you to follow us on Twitter. I would suggest copying down our handle right there. It's abbreviation for Specialist Trading, at SPCLSTTRADG. Every day I post different educational information from things such as little bits of financial wisdom and sometimes signals our strategies have generated. So there's lots of great free information. Please feel free to follow us on Twitter. Now, once again, as I stated in the opening statements, we're a little bit different from other webinars you've attended in the past, and that our only goal, our only purpose is simply to educate traders. We're not here to tell you what we think the market's going to do. So many traders, when they first sign on, they say, well, Steve, what do you think the market's going to do? Is it going to keep going up, or are we going to have a crash, or what do you think? See, that's not our job. A good educator doesn't trade for you to tell you how to trade. He simply educates you so that you can make those own decisions. Now think of it. Most of the time, traders make their decisions based off what someone or something else is telling them what to do, either in a chat room, a trading room, or on TV. And that's really a recipe for disaster, because if that works so well, then why do most traders fail? It's because it really doesn't work well. There's no consistency in that. And over my 43 years of trading, the only thing I have found that works is by being educated with sound fundamental education and then making your own trading decisions. That's the only way you're going to get there. You cannot do it by copying someone else's what they're trading in a chat room or listening to some guy on TV. You have to make your decisions. A lot of students say, well, Steve, I'm not educated enough. I don't have enough experience. Well, that's where we come in. We fill that gap by providing you with the information that stood the test of time. So as you can see, our goal is not to force feed you signals, not to tell you what we think the market's going to do or what we think the perfect time frame is. That's for you to decide. Our goal is simply to teach you how to trade with the specialist edge. Now, this same edge has sustained me now for over 4 decades, so that's the same edge we're trying to instill in all of you and all of our students around the world. Okay, so we're going to have a lot of examples to share with you. As I said, most of these are very recent. They've happened within the last couple of weeks. But before we begin, remember, I want you to ask questions, but please save the questions to the very end. I'll answer all of your questions at the very end of today's class, probably in the next half hour. The only question I will answer is this being recorded? Yes, it is. So if you have to leave early or if you have any technical issues, we will send each and every one of you a link to this recording, okay? So please, if you have a question, remember to ask it at the end and I'll answer it right then. Okay, so let's begin today's class. Now, let's go over these rules, okay? And remember, you don't have to copy these down if you don't want to, because this is going to be recorded and you can watch this video as often as you like. All right, rule number 1. You're going to be surprised how simple this is, but whatever strategy you're trading, I don't care if it's one of mine, one of yours, doesn't matter, whatever you're trading, whoops, kind of jumped the gun there, buy signals can only be entered above the 50-period moving average. So obviously, sell signals can only be entered below. So if you have a strategy, let's say it's based off earnings, okay? If the earnings are good, in your opinion, but price is below the 50, I personally would suggest not taking that according to these rules. The reason is because it wouldn't be as consistent as purchasing something above the 50. That's what we found out over the years. Now, sure, you're going to have some really nice trades where you have buys below and sells above. But over time, it's a numbers game. And it's all about making you a consistent trader. It's not about having a winning trade and feeling great. You pick the exact bottom or the exact top. And then a week later, you gave it all back because you did the same thing and it didn't work that time, right? What we want to do is have consistency in your trading. This, to me, is one of the most important rules you can ever use, okay? So that's rule number 1. Buys can only be above the 50-period moving average. Sells can only be below. So you have to plot the 50-period moving average on any chart. It doesn't matter if you're looking at a tick chart or a monthly bar chart. It makes absolutely no difference. There should be a 50-period moving average so you can tell whether you should be buying or selling. And the second rule is, rule number 2, when you get a buy signal, that bar must close in the top 25% of its range. Or secondly, if it's a sell signal, it should close in the bottom 25. So what does that mean? Well, wherever you have a bar that all the requirements have been met, once again, let's say it's based on earnings. So the news comes out, it's the end of the day, and it's really good news in your assumption. And so the bar has to close in the top quarter. If it does not close there, the odds are it's not going to continue that much in that direction. Why? Because when the market closes in the top 25% of its range and it's above the 50, the overall and the short-term trend have come together, telling you that it wants to go higher. Same thing with the downside. If it's a sell signal and you're below the 50-period moving average and you close in the bottom 25%, the market is telling you on the overall trend and the short-term trend, it wants to go lower. So you've just added or increased your odds for consistency tremendously just by adding these 2 simple rules. Let me share with you what we mean here. Okay, let's look at that example we were looking at, or actually this is another one, but it's very similar. It looks like the stock is absolutely doing nothing. Perhaps there's some resistance right there. According to that chat room that follows the institutions, they say, hey, there's major resistance. The institutions are all sellers. You don't want to do anything here. In fact, you should sell it as well. All right, that's the way most traders trade. That's the way I used to trade. You're basing your decisions off of what someone or something else is doing. You should, in my opinion, never do that. You only base your opinion and what you want to do with the stock off what the market in front of you is doing. So how do we find out what it's doing? First thing is on our platform, you press the buy sell line, drop-down menu will appear, and that's all you have to do is click on 50-period moving average. This tells you whether you're going to be buying or selling. It doesn't tell you where or when to buy. It just tells you whether you have a buyer's bias or a seller's bias. So now we apply that, and now we ask ourselves, where is price in relation to that 50? It's above, right? So we can't even consider selling anything. Remember, if price is above, that's where we look for buy setups. Okay, so we know the overall trend is up, so we're not going to be selling. So now we want to look for the second portion with our bars that close in the top 25%, because we already know the overall trend is up. So let's look at that. And now we see a number of bars here that close in the top 25%. And that's telling you on the short term that the market wants to go higher. So you have the short term and the overall trend in sync. So this is a tremendous edge to have. And look what eventually happens. The stock went up 17 points in the next 3 weeks. Someone would say, how did you know that? Did you know that there was going to be some good news? Or did you know that the market was going to go up based off some tremendous indicator or some basic fundamental news that was announced? No, the market was telling us in advance. There's nothing we really had to do other than jump on board. Now this can work on the downside as well, as we look at this older chart in GIL. Okay, and this is once again an example of how well you can learn this on our platform. Our platform is basically like having your own mentor there with you to check your work. Okay, so you say to yourself, well, you know, Steve, I've been watching that guy on TV, and he says that this is major support. Okay, it's basically big Fibonacci support. You don't want to go against the Fibonacci numbers because they're always right. And this guy's a big Fibonacci expert, and he's saying you got to buy right here. Okay, or you got to hold it if you have the position already because it's major support. Look at the double bottom, triple bottom that's made here. All right. Once again, I used to trade this way too, so I'm not being arrogant or condescending. I used to make my decisions based off this same type of information until my mentor said, Steve, listen, there's no consistency in any of that. The best thing is to learn how to listen to the market. It's a lot simpler. It's not as subjective, and it's a lot easier to find out. And I said, well, what do I do if I want to listen to the market? They said the first thing is to apply the 50-period moving average in whatever market you're trading, whatever time frame. So on our platform, we made that simple. Buy, sell line, click on 50-period moving average. Ask yourself, where is price in relation to that 50-period moving average? It's below. Are we ever going to be a buyer below the 50? Absolutely not. We'll only be a seller, because we want to be consistent. It's all about 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So we don't care if it's some major Fibonacci support. That doesn't make any difference to us. We are just listening to the market, okay? Now, second thing we want to do, since the overall trend is down, we want to figure out where the short-term trend is. And we see a number of bars here that close in the bottom 25%. So that's telling us, according to these two rules, that the market wants to go lower at these points, and look what eventually happened. The stock fell 12 points in 3 weeks. Once again, did we know this was going to gap down like this based off some news? Probably. Absolutely not. And someone would say, well, how did you know that? How did you know this was going to gap down like that? We didn't know. But all we knew was that the market told us it wanted to go lower. So we're just jumping on board and seeing how low it goes and how it does it. This is how simple trading can be if you throw away all of these things my mentors called useless noise and simply learn how to listen to the market. It's a lot easier, makes things a lot more basic and simple. You don't have to figure out if the earnings are good or where the Fibonacci is or Elliott wave or go to chat rooms. You can just see for yourself and make your own decisions. Remember, that's our goal, not to have statistics, not to tell you, trade this market or trade this time frame. Our goal is simply to provide you with this information so that you can make your own trading decisions. That is the only way, in my opinion, how someone can become a consistent trader. Now, these two rules that I just shared with you make up one of our most profitable, or I should say consistent strategies, and that's strategy number 4, okay? This is a technique I first learned on the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange. It's one of the first strategies I learned from my mentors. And let me give you a little bit of background about it. It was designed for traders looking to catch momentum. Now, when we used to trade it, we traded it in 5-minute increments because we were on the floor of the exchange getting in and out. But we've designed it in ways in which you can hold it for weeks, months, even years if you'd like. You can trade it in any market, any time frame. It's a pattern recognition strategy. So we're specifically looking for a pattern that is generated over and over again in any market and in any time frame. Now, it only uses one indicator because we're looking for this pattern. And that indicator is the 50-period moving average, which we already gave to you. The other rule is the top or bottom 25%. Now, I'm going to share with you a lot of examples and show you how simple it is to actually generate these signals on our PTS Primo Charting Platform, because they're automatically generated for you. Now, in our courses, we teach you exactly what to look for. We teach you what the rules are. We teach you what constitutes a valid strategy number 4 signal. But on the platform, we've developed the arrow system so that all you have to do to check your work to make sure you're properly identifying a valid signal, and you click on the arrows and you'll check your work, because our goal is to get you to the point where you don't have to use the arrows anymore. You just automatically know where a signal is. Just by looking at any chart, you'll be able to find out in the blink of an eye that this is a strategy 4 buy signal. Oh, there's a strategy 4 sell signal, okay? And we use our platform to teach you how to do that. All right, so let's look at some recent signals, and we'll show you how we go through this process on the platform. Okay, let's look at BRKS, all right? This was a couple of weeks ago in July. And once again, doesn't look like anything happening here. Market's kind of just in a range. We're just kind of going down, going up, going back down again. And that's the way most traders make their decisions. They'll just look at it and say, well, nothing's happening. I'll move on to the next one. Remember, what's the first thing we do? On our platform, you click on the buy-sell line in the upper green strategy tab. This is where all our strategies and techniques are. And in the drop-down menu, you'll see all the different ways in which to view it. Let's view the simplest one, which is the 50-period moving average. Click that on. And now, sure, you may be going sideways, but the overall trend is up. So even if we're going sideways, you want to look at this from a buyer's perspective. Now, let's say you've learned all the rules to strategy number 4 in our course, but you want to check your work because you think you see a signal and you want to check to make sure you're learning. So now you would click on strategy number 4 right here. A drop-down menu will appear. Now click on signal arrow, because that will tell you if you're in line. And guess what? That's where you thought you saw one, and that's a valid signal. So you're learning by going through this process, and ultimately you'll be able to see one without even looking at the arrows, okay? Had you elected to take that signal, well, guess what? You would have made 9 points in about 4 days. A nice little quick trade, right? Here's another example here in XLNX. Same thing. Doesn't look like much is happening, kind of going sideways to nowhere. In fact, there's a bearish engulfing pattern. So that's actually telling you that this is kind of negative. I want to stay away from this. Even though it's going sideways, probably best just not to do anything. If anything at all, maybe better just to short it. But that's not the way we look at things at specialist trading. Going through the process, the first thing we always do is tell our students, click on the buy-sell line in the upper green strategy tab corner. In the drop-down menu, click on 50-period moving average. And then ask yourself, where is price in relation to that? Price is above. So we don't care if there's a bearish engulfing pattern. We don't care if the institutions are selling. We don't care if some guy in a chat room says you have to short this. The market, the only thing we listen to, is telling us the overall trend is up. So we're not going to sell anything if the overall trend is up. Now we think we see a strategy number 4 buy signal. In fact, we think we see a couple of them. So we want to check our work because we're still learning within this process. Click on strategy number 4. In the drop-down menu that appears, click on signal arrow. And you're right. Once again, you are well along your way to learning how to validly identify a proper strategy number 4 signal. So you feel confident that you're learning how to spot these. And guess what? Stock went up 12 points in the next 2 weeks. You see how simple this process is. Now remember, once again, I know a lot of you are saying, well, Steve, how come you didn't have a buy signal here or here? They were above the 50 and they closed in the top 25%, because there are still 2 more rules that I can't divulge. I'm sorry about that, but it wouldn't be fair to the people who are members of the course. And remember, we're looking for a specific pattern that generates itself over and over again in all markets and time frames. And that's what is generating these buy signals, okay, and sell signals. All right, some more examples. Here's one in QCOM, all right? This was just last week. We're above the 50-period moving average. We close in the top 25% of the range, you see right here. And the remaining rules of this strategy requirements are met. So you could have elected to buy on the 27th of July, and the stock went up 15 points in 3 days. Not a bad little trade, right? Here's another one, PayPal. Another mini cluster of buy signals above the 50, both closing in the top portion of their range, 20 points in the next 4 or 5 days. And this all just happened within the last week or so. UPS, once again, is above the 50. Doesn't look like much is happening. A sideways range market, but we close in the top 25%. And the requirements have been met for the strategy. So you could have elected to buy UPS on the 27th, up 25 points in 3 days. Now remember, you can buy calls, you can buy option spreads. It makes no difference how you want to trade this. It's entirely up to you. We're just pinpointing, we're teaching you high probability setups. How you want to enter into the markets is once again your choice. It's totally up to you. We're not going to tell you you can only trade one way and this is the way you've got to buy it. You have to purchase the stock or you have to purchase this through options. It's entirely up to you. Here's one in GSHD. Okay, someone looking at this would say, well, Steve, there's clear-cut resistance here. Come on, I spent $15,000 on that course about the institutions. And the institutions are never wrong. That's where the big money is. And they're all selling here. And look how we can't get through this area because there's major resistance. So, gosh, you know, either I want to avoid this or I want to sell this too, okay? Once again, this is how most traders make their decisions based off of someone or something else. I know this from firsthand experience because I did the same thing some 4 decades ago. But here's the only problem. It didn't work 4 decades ago for me. So why do you think it's going to start working now? I wouldn't rely on the institutions any more than I would rely on some neighbor down the street. Once again, you will have a higher level of consistency if you only listen to one thing, the market in front of you. So how do we do that? Well, we apply the buy-sell line. And this is the beauty of our platform because it automatically does this process. Everything is one click away. Click on 50 period and right off the bat, we don't care if the institutions are selling. The overall trend is up. And until we have consecutive closes below, we're still going to look at this from a buyer's perspective. Now we look for those bars that closed in the top 25%, and we also look for the remaining rules of the strategy to be met. And we think we see a signal. So we check our work, click on strategy 4, click on signal arrow, and we were right. This last bar is a buy signal. Excuse me. So had we taken that, in about a week or so, we would have had a nice 25-point gain simply by listening to the market. There's absolutely nothing else, in our opinion, that you need to listen to. Why overcomplicate your trading when it can be so much simpler, when you don't have to overthink things? How about Apple? Okay, once again, a little mini cluster of buy signals here, 1 and 2, 45 points coming into the beginning of August. Let's look at IDXX. Above the 50, we close in the top 25%. Now someone could say, well, see, what about this one? It closed in the top range. Yes, but it didn't meet the requirements that are left in the strategy. Remember, we still have 2 more rules that have to be fulfilled. Now this bar didn't, but this one did. So you could have elected to take this buy signal, which actually would have given you a better price. And coming into August, you could have potentially made 70 points. I'm not going to say that you made that amount of points, but we give you upwards of 6 or 7 different exits on the platform. So it's up to you how to decide. Take whichever one you want. These are all different techniques and methods that I've learned how to exit over the course of the year. So it's up to you to decide how you'd want to exit. Some of our traders say, listen, Steve, I took 2 points and I'm glad I'm moving on to the next one. Others will try and take more. Still, others may even stay in the trade after a 70-point gain. It's entirely up to you. Let's look at letter W, another mini cluster of buy signals here on the 27th of July. 70 points in the next 4 days. Not a bad little trade there, right? Now, we're not saying once again you made 70. It went up 70 points. Now, just to let you know, because the market, in this last 4 months has gone straight up. So there haven't been a lot of sell examples. But remember back in February and March when the market was really starting to fall out of bed with the pandemic news finally kicked in, well, that's when markets started to really go lower. So I just want to share with you this one example. Now, the news didn't really get that intense until March. But look at this right here. Had we looked at VLO, all right, this was in the beginning to middle of February. Most traders would have once again looked at this and said, well, Steve, you know, we're making higher highs, higher lows, and there's major support right here. Once again, this is the Elliott wave support, so I can't sell this. And the market's been going up, so why would I even think about selling? Well, the reason is because when you apply the buy-sell line, price is below the 50. That's why you would think about selling. Because this stock is telling us the overall trend is down. And until it closed consecutively above the 50, you should look at this only from a seller's point of view. So this was well in advance of the pandemic news, well in advance of that, okay? And on top of that, what do we have here? We think we see a sell signal. We click on strategy 4 to check our work. And we're right, there is a sell signal. So when the market was continuing to go up in February, before the news got that intense about the pandemic and the markets were still stable, you were knowing to go short VLO, and then ultimately the stock went down 50 points once the news kicked in. Once again, someone would say, well, how did you know that? How did you know the pandemic was going to be that bad? How did you know that the economy was going to shut down and the country would shut down? We didn't know that. But the market told us that this stock wanted to go lower. So that's all we follow. We really don't care about the news. We really don't care about interest rates. We really don't care about earnings. You can if you want to, but there's absolutely no reason to follow those things. Trust me, I followed all of those things 4 decades ago, and they didn't work for me then. So there's no reason why you would think they're going to start working now. It's so much easier. It's so simple just to apply these few basic rules to get your trading in line and consistent. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, Steve, sure, that's great, but what about news events, news announcements that happen before and after? A lot of times you may be caught on the right or wrong side, actually. Well, that's true. We're not going to guarantee you that you will always do better than a news announcement that may come out overnight. But it's been my experience that often the market tells you what it wants to do in the direction of the news because it's almost factored in. For example, Yahoo Finance reported that Varian medical system stock surged today. Now, shares of this was on the 3rd of August, so this was just this past week. The stock VAR jumped more than 20% on Monday after the cancer treatment specialist said it struck a deal to be acquired by Siemens Healthineers for $16.4 billion. All right, so great news. Overnight came out that they're going to be bought, or there's a deal in the works to be bought out. So that caused the stock to surge. As you can see, the stock was basically kind of floating a little higher, but then ultimately look what happened, okay? This is where traders love to play the victim role, and they say, gosh, I wish I would have got that. So I was thinking about it, but it really wasn't giving me any clear-cut signs, so I didn't do anything, or I just didn't get involved. I forgot about it. And that guy in the chat room said there was no interest in this, so we didn't do anything, all right? That's why most traders fail. You're not listening to the market. You're relying on what to do, on what some guy in the chat room is saying, some guy on TV. It would have been so simple had you applied the 50-period moving average. You would have known it was above the 50, so there's no reason to even think about selling it. And then if you used the second rule, the top 25%, and the remaining rules of strategy 4, there was a buy signal right here, well before the stock news came out, and you could have potentially gained 40 points from where that buy signal was. Once again, most of our traders would say, that's amazing. So you guys follow all this fundamental news about buyouts and things like that? The short answer is absolutely not. I stopped looking at any type of fundamental news over 4 decades ago. So then how did we know to buy this? Well, we didn't know that this was going to get bought out, but the stock was telling us, guess what? I want to go higher. So if you want to buy me, now's a good time. And that's the only thing we were listening to. Now, sometimes it only goes up 5, 10 points. Sometimes it goes up based off a buyout rumor. But that's not for us to decide. All our choices is just to listen to the market, okay? Here's another example. Kodak, all right? This was on the 29th of July. The shares surged 300% after the pharmaceutical deal. Kodak is getting into the pandemic fighting business. Eastman Kodak is getting a $765 million loan from the U.S. government to produce pharmaceutical ingredients that will be used to make generic drugs, including those used to fight COVID. Great news, right? They're getting a lot of money. They're going to get in the pandemic business. As we can see here, here's when the news came out and the stock surged, all right, intraday. Now, stock was kind of doing absolutely nothing. It's a $1, $2 stock. It's below, it's above the 50, but right here, we closed above. A buy signal was generated, even though it's a little aggressive because it was such a tight stock. But just to show you that if you really were listening to this, you could have seen and done a scan the night before and seen that Kodak, K-O-D-K, had generated a buy signal that in 2 days could have potentially generated 57 points, okay? So someone, once again, could say, well, how did you know that? Did someone tip you off about this Kodak announcement? No, the only thing that tipped us off was the market in front of us. Okay, so let's recap before we go into question and answer portion. Remember, wherever you're buying or selling, whatever system, whatever strategy, you should apply the buy-sell line, which is the 50-period moving average. It doesn't matter if you trade 5-minute charts the way I do. It doesn't matter if you trade weekly or monthly charts. Always have a 50-period moving average there, okay? Now, if price is above, you should only have a buyer's bias. If price is below, you should only have a seller's bias. Now, that's for the overall trend to be determined. For the short-term trend, you want to look for that top-bottom 25% bar. That means that whatever signal that your strategy generates, when all the rules come together, when all the requirements have been met, that signal bar should close in the top 25% of its range if it's a buy signal and it's above the 50-period moving average. If it's below the 50-period moving average, don't take it. Now, if you get a sell signal, and the sell signal, let's say it's based off the tides of the ocean, it absolutely makes no difference. So let's say you get a sell signal, price is below the 50. Okay, that's good. The overall trend is down, but that bar must close in the bottom 25% as well, because now you know that the overall and short-term trend will be in sync. Now, these are two very powerful rules. You can start applying them today, and I really think you'll increase your odds for consistency with whatever you're trading. But on top of that, these are two of the first rules that make up one of our most consistent methods, strategy number 4. We just shared with you all these signals that were generated in the past week. You saw how consistent they were, okay? So I just gave you half of the rules to the strategy, and on top of that, we showed you how simple it is to go through the process of generating these signals on our PTS Primo Charting Platform, okay? So now, as we get ready to close here, I want you to ask yourself a question before you ask me questions. Do you think these trading rules can help your trading for the remainder of 2020? After all, we're halfway through the year. Has the first part of the year shown you any of the type of results you thought you'd get at the beginning? Most likely they haven't. Take the next step. You owe it to yourself to increase your odds for consistency. We have a great offer for all the attendees today. This is our special Saturday offer. We're going to offer you strategy number 4. I know the graphic there says stock strategy. That's because when we first started promoting this strategy years ago, we basically were just promoting it for stocks because that's where I first started trading it. But ultimately, we found out that it works great on every market and every time frame. In fact, I personally use it mainly for E-mini trading. So don't get fooled by the title there. It can be applied to any market. We have a number of currency pair traders. We have futures traders. We also have Bitcoin traders and commodity traders that trade only strategy number 4, okay? So this is our most consistent strategy. You'll get the instant course access. You'll get detailed instruction. You'll know all the entries, all the exits, and all the stops, and the automatic buy and sell arrows. But on top of that, we're going to throw in a completely different strategy based off of completely different rules. This is strategy 3A. It's an entirely different method that actually is based off of looking for strong trends. In fact, here are some of the highlights. It's designed for traders looking to trade strong, trendy markets. It's a continuation method. And it does this by applying a proprietary Bollinger Band setting, which we teach you in the course. Now, let me just share with you an example. Here's one in WEC. As we look at this, someone would say, well, Steve, this stock has really gone up too quickly. It's way up, and it's overbought, according to that chat room I go to. So I don't think I want to do it. I don't think I want to get involved in this. But strategy 3A is looking for the strong, trendy markets. It actually generated a buy signal at the top, and you could have still potentially captured 10 points. So this is a great strategy, entirely different. We're also throwing this in today's special offer. But we're not going to stop there. We're also throwing in 7 extra bonuses. All right, these are the 7 Saturday bonuses we're throwing in. Bonus number 1, we will throw in the add-ons. That's where you're able to see the up and down arrows if you have TradeStation, Metastock, MT4, Sierra Charts, NinjaTrader, okay? Now, bonus number 2, you'll get the full Secrets of a Stock Specialist course. This is a 3-hour video seminar I recorded when I was the head speaker at a convention in Denver, Colorado years ago. This is a $1,000 value. We're also throwing that in. Lots of more different techniques and tips in this. Bonus number 3, you'll get the PDF version of my book. Okay, this is where I talk about on a detailed basis how I traded during the crash of 1987. That's included. Bonus number 4, we take it up a notch in the Secrets course, Secrets 2.0, where we give you more advanced edges, more advanced techniques. I'm going to skip bonus number 5 for right now. Let's go to bonus number 6, We will give you strategy scanners on our PTS Primo charts to identify individual setups. And bonus 7 will give you a multi-scanner. So you can scan for multiple things at the same time. That's a close to $700 value. Let's go back to bonus number 5. I think this is the best deal, the best bang for your buck. We're going to throw in 6 months free of our PTS Primo Charting Platform with delayed data. This is a great, great offer because look at this. Usually 6 months would cost you close to $900. And we're not going to just, stop there with giving you a few minor things. These are just the tip of the iceberg. Obviously, you'll get the up and down automatic arrows going through the process of how I showed you today how to trade strategy 4 and 3A. You'll also get 4 buy-sell line features. You'll get our proprietary exit levels, a signal scanner, a strength of trend tool that tells you with uncanny ability if there's more room left to the upside or downside in a trend, or if it's running out of gas, and then personalized tech support. Great tech support that can solve any problem with the chart, anything with data for you. So this is all included in this special offer. So let's break this down, okay? You're getting strategy 4, strategy 3A, and 6 months of the platform, along with all those other extra free bonuses, okay? Remember, you're going to learn all the entries, all the exits. And one last thing I didn't mention at the very bottom there, at the bullet points, you'll get educational correspondence. That means you can contact me whenever you'd like via email, my personal email address. If you have a question, I will be there in moments to answer it for you, okay? Here's our discount. If we broke this down, normally this costs close to $7,100, okay, if you purchase these individually and there was no Saturday discount. But we're not going to charge you that. What we're going to do is for a limited time, charge you only $297. You're going to save over $6,800. I mean, think of that. Less than $300. You're going to get over 4 decades of information and education, 2 full-fledged strategies, 6 months of our platform, and you'll have access to my personal email address. You can contact me whenever you like with questions. This is a great offer. I can almost guarantee in the last month, most of you have lost probably more than $300, okay? Here's a great way to take your trading to the next level. Remember, you owe it to yourself to take your trading to the next level. Don't finish the last 6 months of 2020 the way you started out. Get in the positive column and start to trade with consistency. Here's how to take advantage of this great, great offer, okay? Contact Pro Trader Strategies. They're my sister site. I developed the platform with them. They're in charge of all the discounting and all the pricing. If you'd like to take advantage of this special less than $300 offer, if you want to do it really quickly, you can be up and running today. I would contact them via phone at 310-598-6677. They have trained trading consultants manning the phones right now. They would be more than happy to answer any question or take your order over the phone. There's no obligation. If you wanted to just ask them a question, they would be more than happy to do that. But once again, this offer is for a limited time only, so it's not going to be there for long. Let's say you waited and got the video this week and watched it for the next couple of weeks and said, you know what? None of my stuff has been working. I'm going to take advantage of that webinar. I went to Steve Primo a couple of weeks ago and see if they have that $297 deal. Well, most likely it'll be back up to about $7,100. So I would really take advantage of it now while you have that really deep discount, okay? Now that link you see at the very bottom has just been posted onto the chat box. There's a live link there, so that will take you to the information page and you can sign up online via there if you'd like to, okay? So I promised I would reserve the last portion for any questions. If anyone has any questions, I would be more than happy. I see a few are here that says, hello, I'm from Nigeria. Hello, I trade the NASDAQ 100. I want to know if strategy number 4 and your pattern recognition strategy works effectively alongside with PET-D on a 1-minute time frame of the NASDAQ index. Yes, it does. We have many people who trade the NASDAQ index. But here's one thing I would just mention. I personally use it on the S&P 500 futures. That's the E-mini. I like to use it on tick charts and on 5-minute bars. But one thing I have to tell you, and this has nothing to do with strategy number 4 or the PET-D. This is just totally with any method. The smaller time frame you go, as I'm sure you're experienced, you sound like an experienced trader, the smaller the time frame, the more whipsaw noise you'll get. Okay, so you just have to be aware of that. The higher time frame, you start trading daily, weekly, monthly, you'll get less whipsaw. That's just the nature of the way the energy of the markets is. So they still work great. And one of the best things about that other tool you're talking about, which we're not talking about today, but the PET-D, is it keeps you out of a lot of that. So yes, it will work. It will work. But remember, you still need one thing that is required with all of our courses. You need to paper trade first so that you don't jump in too quickly. But we explain that in the course. Okay. Let's see. What is the best strategy for trading the NASDAQ? Well, once again, that's up to you to decide. All I can tell you is that our most popular and our most consistent strategy is strategy number 4. Okay, it's a really great strategy and it works well in any market or time frame. It can work well with indexes. It can work well with futures. It can work with commodities, currency pairs. It just works well with all of those things. Okay, so it's a great tool to have. Someone is asking, can I get this deal? Will I be able to apply it ultimately with Thinkorswim? Yes, you can, but the way we are set up with Thinkorswim, they have very much limitations on how we're able to apply our, not just us, but anyone's strategies or up and down arrows on their platform. So there's a few minor alterations that need to be made. They can explain that to you at Pro Trader Strategies. But yes, you can apply this if you're a Thinkorswim user. But once again, I would personally take full advantage of this 6 months with the platform because everything is right there. I mean, it's one click away. We designed it specifically as an educational tool to make it right there as if you had your own personal educator or mentor sitting right next to you. So in other words, you learn through the courses how to spot these signals, and then you check your work and go through the process on the platform. It's really highly educational because the one goal is to ultimately have you make your own decisions, okay? Let's see, last question is, what's the cost of the platform after the 6 months? Well, remember, you're not locked in. You can decide whether to stay after 6 months, but it's your choice. But let's say you're the way most of our students have told us, they love it and they continue to stay on. I believe the cost is only $97 per month, which is still very inexpensive. I have been using platforms in the past before I developed a PTS Primo Charting Platform, and many times the cost was over $500 per month. So this is extremely inexpensive compared to those prices. So $97, and you're still getting all this and more. So it's a great offer. Okay, good questions. This will bring us to the end of this Saturday class. I hope you learned something. We always try to, as an educator, separate ourselves from other classes, and that you may attend a free webinar here and there, and you think it looks like this thing is perfect. It looks so great. And then by the end of the presentation, the only way to learn how to do it is to spend thousands of dollars. Well, we don't believe in that. We always want, as an educator, to share something with you so that you can take and go experiment with it. So these 2 rules, I have give them to you. They're actually the first 2 rules of strategy number 4. So feel free to experiment with them. I really believe that after you've done this and you've checked them out, you'll see how valuable they are, and you become a student of mine at Specialist Trading, okay? Just don't take too long because this offer might leave the table and go back up into the $7,000, okay? Thank you so much for taking time out of your weekend. I really hope you have a great week following, and I wish you the best of luck. And most especially, I look forward to all of you becoming students of mine in the Strategy Number 4 course. Thank you so much for attending. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.